Welcome to City on a Hill Kids Church Online.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Jimmy.
Today we're going to be continuing our series on the Bible overview.
But that will be after a time of worship.
There is something that's better than the latest toy. There is something that never can be destroyed. It's worth more than jewels and gold or anything money can buy. W.I.S.D.O.M spells wisdom. I need it. W.I.S.D.O.M in your word I find it. I need your wisdom, Lord, each day. Left to my own self, I always tend to go astray. But in the Bible, you reveal your perfect way. You teach me to think like you instead of being a fool. Don't wanna be that. W.I.S.D.O.M spells wisdom. I need it. W.I.S.D.O.M in your word I find it. I need your wisdom, Lord, each day. So much I need to hear your truth. I need your wisdom, Lord. I wanna love it, live it, learn it, read it.
W-I-S-D-O-M.
I wanna know it, think it, speak it, breathe it.
W-I-S-D-O-M.
I wanna love it, live it, learn it, read it.
W-I-S-D-O-M.
I wanna know it, think it, speak it, breathe it. Yeah. W.I.S.D.O.M spells wisdom, and I need it. W.I.S.D.O.M in your word I find it. Oh, W.I.S.D.O.M spells wisdom, and I need it. W.I.S.D.O.M in your word I find it. I need your wisdom, Lord, and I need your wisdom, Lord, and I need your wisdom, Lord, each day, every day, and I need your wisdom.
We ended last time talking about how Israel wanted to be like the kingdoms around them. They wanted to have a king. This was when Samuel was judge. Samuel was also a prophet and a priest. We also said that the united Israel had been divided into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom, which was called Israel, and the southern kingdom, called Judah. There were 19 kings for Israel and 20 kings for Judah. I want to stop right there and go back a bit and talk about a few other books before we miss them. Did you realize that the books of the Bible are real life stories? They are real history. There were people in those days, in those times, that actually wrote history of things that were going on at the time. Their books didn't get into the Bible, but what they wrote about lined up with what the Bible said was happening at that time. So the Bible is real life history. As I said, I want to mention a few books before we forget them. The first book is Ruth. Now, Ruth is a book that was written, and it's about what happened during a time of famine. It's important because it ends up telling us about who King David's great-great-grandparents were. This is also important because it is from the line of David that our Lord and our Saviour, Jesus Christ, comes from. Now, the book of Ruth comes in the time of the Judges. The other books that I want to talk about are the books of wisdom. And I will start with Job. Now, Job is a bit of an odd man out because it is the oldest book in the Bible and slots in somewhere in the book of Genesis. Job is about how a good person can go through challenging times. I mean, really, really challenging times. And in spite of this, it gives us the reason why we should continue to serve and trust God. Because God is sovereign. God is supreme. The other books in this group of books of wisdom are Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, also known as Song of Solomon, and probably Lamentations. Wisdom books give observations on things that happen and guidelines on how to deal with them. Essentially, it talks about things that have been noticed and what to do about them. The book of Psalms is essentially a song book. More than half of the Psalms were written by King David, and he put the Psalms together. He is the one that compiled the Psalms. There are 150 Psalms. It asks questions about things observed, things that have been noticed, the answers that God had given, and then these written down. Do you remember any particular psalm? We have done Psalm 23 here. Do you remember it? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Go back and check that one out. Solomon was one of the kings of the United Israel. He was the wisest king that ever lived. And he is the one that put together Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon. King Hezekiah also needs to get a mention here because he also wrote some of the chapters in these books of wisdom. Proverbs was written in the time of First Kings, and it tells us how to live wisely. Then Ecclesiastes tells us or asks what the meaning of life really is. Song of Songs or Song of Solomon talks about how wonderful marriage is and getting married is. Lamentations is a bit of an odd one because this book was written by the prophet Jeremiah during the 70 years of exile that Judah had in Babylon. It talked about the sorrows and the pains that the people of God were going through at that time. So the books that we have covered today are Ruth, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, and Lamentations. And that is the end of the story.
Hi everybody, how are you? So today Ivy was mostly looking at these books that we learned last week, and on our chart here they're called poetry books, but Ivy called them wisdom books, and that's a very good name for them because these books are so full of wisdom from God, written by some of the wisest people who've ever lived. And here on Kids Online we tend to mostly look at the Bible stories, the true stories, but stories of people's lives. But these books are so important, so useful to us. So let's practice our song, and then we're going to do a craft to help us remember the wisdom books. So we've got up to the end of the first line, and then we're going to just add a few more afterwards. So let's go together. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, and Samuel. Samuel, Kings, Kings, Chronicles, Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, and Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon. So that takes us where we've got up to. Let's add a few more. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations. Can you do those ones? Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations. Well done. And in fact, you'll have heard Ivy mention Lamentations as one of the books in this section, one of the wisdom books. On our chart, and in the order it comes in the Bible index, it actually comes here next to Jeremiah because it was written by the prophet Jeremiah. So that's why it's in here. But you could put it up there in terms of what it's about. So, to help us remember how important the wisdom books are, I thought today we could make a very wise and rather cute little owl. And you can see that my wise owl here, he's holding a scroll, and on it I've written a verse from Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 13. Hold on to instruction. Do not let it go. Guard it well, for it is your life. So that reminds us just how important these wisdom books are. So if you'd like to make a little owl, you will need a paper cup and then another piece of paper and some pens. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out the pieces for the head, the wings and the feet. Now you can see the face, the head, is kind of like a number 8 shape on its side, and it might be that you can find something to draw around to help give this shape. I've got this little circular pencil pot. If you can't find anything, you'd have to just do it freehand. But what you want to do, if you've got something, is draw around the circle, but not quite completing it, and then you can move it along and draw around it again. So we've got these 2 circles next to each other, like this. Then for the wings and the feet, we obviously want 2 wings and 2 feet, so fold your paper over it so you can do 2 at once. For the feet, you just want a kind of, well, a foot shape with 3 toes, like that, and enough space at the back that you'll be able to stick it underneath the lip of your cup at the bottom. And for the wing, again, have it with these sort of loop-de-loops to be like feathers at the bottom of the wing, and that would go onto both sides. So you can cut all of these out, and here we are. I've already coloured in my 2 feet. Here I've got the face. So we need to draw on the eyes. Owls have quite big eyes, so quite a big circle on each side. Then we'll draw in the iris, like this. Not the iris, sorry, the pupil, like that, the black bit in the middle. We'll put a sort of curvy V for the beak, and then the iris, the coloured part, I'm making yellow to match his little feet. You can choose how to colour in your owl. You get different colours of owls. You get snowy owls that are white, barred owls that are brown. So I'm going to give this one just a bit of brown around its face, like that. I'm going to leave its body just for speed, but this one you can see I've coloured in brown. Now, to stick the face on, you can see on this one, there's this green sign saying that this cup is recyclable. I don't really want that to show, so I'm going to stick my face over the top of that. And then I need to make sure that the feet line up with where the face is. So just put a little bit of glue just on the very edge of the foot and stick one on each side. If, like me, with these feet, they're not quite even, there's a kind of a bigger toe and a smaller toe, put the big toes to the middle. So there we are, here's our owl taking shape nicely. Now for the wings, to colour these in, to give the impression of feathers, Again, I'm going to do a kind of loopity-loop shape with my crayon. And if you were colouring in the body, I recommend that same sort of pattern. Now, for one of them, I'm just going to stick it on at the top. There we are. But for the other one, I'm going to stick it on at the top, and then I'm going to bend it up slightly and stick it at the bottom as well, so that I've got this gap where my little scroll can go. So it looks a bit like he's got his hand on his hip. Good. So the final thing is to add in that wisdom under his arm, and you could choose what you want to write. You could either write a Bible verse like I've done, or you could do something like write, "The Bible is full of God's wisdom," or "Read the Bible to be wise." Once you've written it out, quite a good idea is to roll it up around something like a pencil, and that helps you get it rolled into the scroll shape, nice and tight. And then you can pop it under his arm. I'm not sure if he's glued enough to hold it yet. And there he is. Wise owls, ready to remind us about the wisdom books in the Bible. So, I hope you enjoy making an owl, and I hope you enjoy diving into some of these wisdom books this week. And we'll be back again next week. Goodbye.
Finally, we've mentioned the book of Ruth. This story fits in during the period of the Judges.
That's right, and it's important because the book tells us who King David's great-great-grandparents are. That's the family Jesus came from.
Something I've learnt today is that Psalms is actually a songbook. I wonder where the books of wisdom slot in.
I think it would be during the King and Chronicles times. Wherever it slots in, it's important to us today because it gives us good advice. What books have we learned about today?
Ruth, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, and Lamentations.
That's right. I wonder what we're going to learn about next time. That's it for this week.
Till next time, bye!